Hey everyone, you're listening to the Simple Electronics Podcast. I'm your host, Dan from the Simple Electronics YouTube channel. This episode is brought to you by PCBWay, but more about that a little bit later on. With me today, I have nobody special. It's just you and me again. I've been really busy, somewhat live streaming and some of it with other stuff. We're going to chat about that towards the end. Because right now, I'd like to start by telling you what we're going to be doing today, and then you can decide if you're going to listen or if you're going to bail. So today, I figured it would be fun if I could go through somewhere like AliExpress or eBay, those cheap markets, and sort of come up with a top 10 list of things that maybe not beginners, I would say beginner type gear, is probably below the level of the people listening to this podcast, but more like gear that is nice to have in your electronics hobbyist workshop that you can find inexpensive on AliExpress or eBay or those kinds of marketplaces. And so talk about them, what they do, why I think it's a good idea. And on top of that, I'm going to put a link in the description below to all of these products, and a lot of them I'll be ordering at the same time, so I'll get to do my own videos, full videos on these products. But also, I'd love for you to go check out what I've selected and see if you have any better ideas. So stuff that would be, maybe a step up, maybe worth a little bit more money, or maybe a better value, or maybe you disagree completely on my selections. I want you to let me know in the comments below if you're on a commenting platform, or you can always reach out, simpleelectronicsyt@gmail.com, and I'll probably take that into consideration when I make the full length videos. So let's get started. The first thing that I think is a really nice to have, not like necessary, but nice to have piece of gear from AliExpress, which is very cheap. So I'm looking at something here that is under $10 US shipped, and that's $13.50 Canadian dollars shipped, and that is a digital soldering iron tip temperature tester. So yeah, that was a long-winded way to say it's basically a thermistor to check your soldering tip temperature. And why I think that's important? Well, we all pretty much have a temperature settable soldering iron at this point. And I mean, if you're one of those people that don't have one of these, maybe now is your opportunity, maybe upgrade to a temperature controlled soldering iron. The difference is night and day. In fact, I would say if you don't have a temperature controlled soldering iron, that should probably be your first upgrade in your kit. But once you do have one, then you get a soldering iron tip temperature meter or temperature sensor. You can pick one up on AliExpress for not very much. So there's two main models that I see here. One is the 191 temperature tester, and the other one is the FG100. Now, the FG100 is the one that I'm thinking of right now, the one that I'm going to actually order. So essentially, for your $10 US, you get the device with a nice, digital readout, and you get 5 sensors. And these sensors are, the rating on the AliExpress listing is from 0 to 700 degrees Celsius. And how you use it is essentially you set your soldering iron temperature to a certain, let's say 300 degrees Celsius. Then you put a little bit of solder on the tip and you put it on this sensor, and the sensor will read what the actual temperature is. Now, if there's a deviation between what this shows and what your soldering iron is set to, then you can go into the calibration menu of your soldering iron and add an offset. And you just do that until both of them agree. And then you know for a fact that your soldering iron is calibrated. Now, this is kind of important because sometimes your, people online will say, oh, I always solder at this temperature. but other people will say at a different temperature. But the thing is, it could both be the same temperature. You would really need to calibrate each one of the soldering irons in order to get to the same temperature, to be able to agree that it's at the same temperature. So some of like I've got a couple of soldering irons here, and some soldering irons need to be up a little bit in temperature to perform like the other one. So it's possible with the same tip, mind you. So it's possible that they just need to be calibrated. And so that's what a device like that is good for. On top of that, you don't need to buy your own. If there's someone near you, you guys can share, because this thing it's not something you're going to use every single day. But I think it's useful to have around, especially for the price. And the fact that, when I get soldering irons in to test, then I can just run it through this and we'll see how accurate that it is compared to what it says it has to be. So a higher quality soldering iron should be more accurate in temperature than a lower quality soldering iron. The other thing that's good to know is if you have some name brand solder. If you have name brand solder, they'll typically offer you, or the data sheet or the instructions will tell you a melting range or a recommended temperature range in order to set your soldering iron. And I know there's more than just pure temperature. There's also heat, like how big the tip, how much energy the tip holds. However, it's still important to keep in mind that there is a recommended temperature range. And unless you have calibrated your soldering iron, it's possible that you're way off compared to what you think you are. So yeah, I think for $10, that thing is pretty awesome, and I'll definitely be ordering one. The next tool on the list I actually use a lot. So you may have seen it in my YouTube videos where I take things apart. And that is a precision screwdriver set. Now, not the LTT screwdriver, so you can keep your negative comments to yourself. I'm actually talking about a set of screwdrivers that I've bought, so many years ago at this point. And I use it all the time, and never once have I found that it didn't have the correct bit. So this will be $25 Canadian, roughly $18.50 American. It is the Xiaomi Mija Wiha 24-in-1 precision screwdriver kit with magnetic bits. So this, I'm not 100% sure, but it claims to be Wiha brand. So Wiha is I believe it is a German made precision screwdriver company, but this would be the ones commissioned by Xiaomi. So Xiaomi is the sort of like the upper end Chinese. It's like the Chinese Apple, essentially. But this is a kit with it says, is it 24-in-1? Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times 4. Yeah, okay, 24 bits. And this is you'll see a lot of imitations on these. I even have a imitation that I bought for like $1.99, I think, and it is junk. It is plastic. The bits are crap. Don't buy that one. I'll link you to the proper one, essentially, and that is all aluminum and with a really nice aluminum finish. The back of the screwdriver has a like a twisty little knob, so you can put it all into your palm. You can drive it hard into your palm and then twist with your fingers. And it comes with bits that I have yet to strip, and I have abused the living crap out of it. I use the like the flat screwdriver portion for prying all the time, even though it's really not recommended. You're not supposed to use that for prying. And I love the kit because, first of all, it comes in an aluminum sleeve. So it slides in like a full aluminum sleeve with, I believe it has a click action. Like you put it in and then you click it in, and then to get it out, you click it in and again, it pops out. And it comes, I'll tell you what bits it comes with. It comes with Phillips. Now, I think, yeah, okay. So Phillips 1 through 000. Yeah, 3 zeros. So that's the small ones. It comes with 2 tri-wing bits. It comes with a tamper-proof Torx hold on a sec. I'm just trying to see the size here. I have to zoom in. So it's tamper-proof. Oh, geez, I can't read it. Huh. I don't think it's labeled properly. But anyways, it comes with Torx bits. It comes with star bits. It comes with tamper-proof Torx. It comes with a couple Allen bits. And it comes with a triangle and like the one with the 2 dots. So the thing is pretty awesome. It comes with pretty much everything I need for small stuff. Like it's not for big stuff. The handle is very small, but it's like the size of a smartphone, essentially, the whole kit. And yeah, it feels really good in the hand. The case has really strong magnets. So, I mean, I don't have the inner tray inside of the outer case. I haven't had it inside of the outer case forever. And you can shake the living bejesus out of it and the bits don't come out. So it's actually really nice and really nice machining. And it has like sort of like a sandblasted finish. Anyways, I really love these things. They work really well. And I know there's like the iFixit kits and stuff like that, but I don't know if the iFixit is comparable to this. This is cheap. First of all, it's like $25 Canadian, $18.50 American. And to me, it's very, very high quality. Okay. Oh, here, I have the listing for you. There we go. It has, Phillips 1 to Phillips 000, 1.5 millimeter slot to 3 millimeter slot. There's 3 of them. It comes with Torx T2, T3, and T4, tamper-proof Torx T5H, T6, T8, T9, and T10. It comes with the pentalobe, like the 5-point, P2 and P5. It comes with Y, so that's the tri-wing, Y 0.6 and Y1. W 1.5, I don't know what that is. It looks like a Phillips with something in the center. Maybe it's a posi drive, not 100% sure. Comes with the U bit, that's the one with the 2 little dots, 2.6 millimeter spacing. It comes with a 1.5 and a 2 millimeter Allen and a 2.3 millimeter triangle. So essentially, I think it's pretty much complete. And honestly, I don't think it was missing anything. It's really my ideal driver. I might end up buying another set. I'm going to add this one to cart and we'll see how I feel at the end of the episode, because it is nice to have a precision set for doing work, all over the place, not just at my workbench. Tool number 3 on my list is it's been on my list for quite a while, but I never really remember to buy it when I'm doing my AliExpress spending spree. So this podcast is helping me sort of pick up the things that have been on my to-do list for a while. So number 3 is actually a 2-piece kit. It's 2 separate tools, but they do the same thing. They just have different shapes and sizes. And those are IC Chip Extractors. So I think I've done this either on a video or on a live stream. I'm not 100% sure, but I always have issues pulling an IC out of a socket, like a 555 timer, for example, out of a socket or out of a breadboard. It's one of those 2 that are more difficult than the other. Never remember which one. But it does happen where I put my fingers underneath, especially the longer packages, but either way, it doesn't matter. So you're pulling an IC out and it suddenly lets go. And you roll your finger around and one of the pins goes in between your fingernail and your finger. And that hurts. It sends like a shock through your entire body. So they have IC extraction tools. So there's 2 different ones here that come in the 2 set that'll be linked in the bottom there in the doobly-doo. So one of them looks just like a U. Essentially, it's a rubber U with metal prongs sticking out with little 90-degree angles on both sides. So you grab the chip lengthwise and you can squeeze with most of your fingers against your palm, and then just pull up and away. And then they have another one which looks like a metal V, except there's also an outer U out of plastic. And the way this thing works, you probably have to check the link to see what it really looks like. But the way it looks like it works is that the outer U that's made out of plastic gives you a lot of more room to sort of put some leverage on the inner metal part. And then you squeeze like that and you can wiggle and pull it up. So pretty excited to get my hands on one of these. I saw it a long time ago. I don't remember on whose channel. If I do remember, I'll put it in the notes, but I'm trying to remember who. But anyways, I saw it on someone's channel. I wanted to order it, forgot all about it. And so, yeah, it's no longer, I don't know who it was. The other thing is that I'm hoping that it is wide enough that I can pull sort of, bigger things like ESP32 boards, because those sometimes, because of the pin headers grab onto breadboards a lot more than IC legs do. IC legs are like really thin compared to pin headers. And so I'm hoping it helps me pull those out too, because those can be difficult to remove from breadboards, especially in ESP, where you barely had room to start with, and then you have to sort of, force it up with the meaty part of your fingers. Kind of a pain in the butt. So I hope it's good. I hope it works for that as well. For number 4, this is another tool that I actually have a few different variations of, but I find myself going to this one variation the most. And that is a PCB holder or a PCB vise or a PCB helping hand. I'm not quite sure what you call this specifically, but yeah, I've got a couple of these. However, the one I go to the most is the one linked below. And that is the one that is just under 23 Canadian dollars, just under 17 US dollars. And that is the type that kind of looks like an H. I don't know if you have seen it. You must have seen it in my videos. But it's the one that has sort of like 2, let's say, vertical legs, and then 1 horizontal crossbar. And that horizontal crossbar has 2 sort of like pillars. And these pillars have these rotating feet in them. And then you just clamp the PCB either widthwise or lengthwise in these little feet. And I think for, just under 20 US dollars, just over 20 Canadian dollars, this one is by far my most favorite PCB holder. I have a few different ones. I've got a 3D printed one. I've got the helping hands with the little clamps. But I think this one is the one I like the most. You can hold really big PCBs. You can hold little PCBs. And what's nice about the rotating sort of feet that grab the PCB is that you can do through hole, because you can put your components through the top, and then all you have to do is flip the board around. Don't have to disconnect it or anything, just flip it around and then solder your through hole components, snip them off, and then flip it around, put some more components on. It works really well, and that's the one I use all the time. On top of that, one of my Patreon patrons has sent me like articulated arms, like the kind you use for coolant on machining operations. So they're like lock line, but the generic Chinese ones. And what I did with this lock line is I drilled the spout, and I put alligator clips in there, and I glued the alligator clips, and then I made little attachments for the threaded portion that attach onto the legs of this PCB holder. And so I ended up with 4 helping hands that go on top of this PCB holder. So not only can I do, PCBs in any orientation, any size, whatever, no problems, but I even have 4 helping hands for it. So I think at that point, it's pretty much the ultimate PCB holder. Now, the one that I'm going to link to, though, is an updated version of the one I have. So mine is like a dark blue and black. This one is kind of like a seafoam green and black. And the upgrade is that on one side of the PCB holder, there's a metal coil where you can put your soldering iron directly in. So you can, solder some solder joints, put your soldering iron into the holder, insert more devices, and then solder some more. I think that's a pretty cool addition because sometimes I end up knocking over my soldering holder because I'm holding down a component, that doesn't have long enough legs to splay or whatever. I end up knocking over my soldering iron. So having it right there in the little holder is quite useful. And it'll also be useful to you if you use a TS100, TS101, TS80 type soldering iron that does not come with a stand. You can just jam it right in there, and then that's all you need. So if you don't have something to hold your PCB, now there are some magnetic ones, but I do recommend this one here in the description. There are some magnetic ones that I have not tried yet, so maybe let me know in the comments if you like the magnetic style, because that is an option. I'm open to it, but I don't know. I'm not sure if I would like it as much as the versatility of being able to flip the board around like that. Or maybe the magnetic one is for SMD. Let me know what you use in the comments below. So now we're on item 5. Oh, we're halfway there. Living on a prayer and so on and so on. For item number 5, this is a cheap one. So if you're not big on spending a lot of money like I am, I will offer this one up for really cheap. This is just under $3 Canadian, just under $2 American, something like that. I didn't do the conversion for this one. It's very cheap. But that is a soldering iron cleaner. Now, I know a lot of you are big fans of the wet sponge method of cleaning your iron. Actually, let's go back a little bit. If you're not cleaning your soldering iron and you're getting bad solder joints, that is probably why. You do need to clean your soldering iron. Typically, a soldering iron will come with a little sponge, and you add water to it and a little wet sponge, and you'll heat up your soldering iron, put a little bit of solder on it, and then wipe it on the wet sponge, and then a little bit more solder, and then you go ahead and you solder. However, I don't like the wet sponge. I'm not a fan. I've never been a fan. I don't like the fact that it, has some thermal shock to the iron, even though the iron should be resistant to that. My favorite way to clean my soldering iron, and please let me know in the comments if I'm wrong, but this is just my favorite way to do it, is to rub my iron tip in a brass or a copper foil, hairy type ball. So like you get this copper mesh or this brass mesh, and you just, shake your soldering tip into it. And when you pull it out of there, it is clean as a whistle. And the thing is, you would think that rubbing it on metal would mean that you're abrading the tip and you're going to ruin the tip. But I'll tell you, I've had the same iron since probably 2016. And I use the same tip since 2016. And I've been cleaning it the exact same way because my iron has a sponge and a brush holder, like a metal brush holder thing. And I've only used the metal brush, and it works phenomenal. And I'm still on my original tip. And this is a Heiko clone, like an 858D clone that I've been using for all this time. In fact, the heating element in it burned out, and so I replaced it. But the tip is still the original tip, the original chisel tip that I always used. So anyways, for under $3 Canadian, under $2 American, you can get yourself one of these they say it's copper. I'm not sure if the ones they're offering is copper or if it's like copper-clad aluminum or something, but it doesn't matter. It's one of those metal, scrubby brushes, and it comes in a little tin container with a clear top, and I think you can pop the clear portion out of the top. And you just stick your iron inside and you wiggle it all around with a little bit of solder on it, and it comes out sparkling clean. And if you don't believe me, I think it's a very small risk for you to take to pick one up. They're like, a couple of dollars, and see if you like it better than your sponge. You might, or you might not. Let me know. Just a quick interruption to talk about this episode's sponsor, PCBWay. PCBWay has been a long-term sponsor of the channel, and I think they're a good match for my channel because they provide quality PCBs for a reasonable price. You can get boards manufactured up to 100 mils by 100 mils for just $5, including shipping to Canada, $15 US, including shipping to USA, $12 US, which is incredibly cheap for professionally manufactured PCBs. I can personally attest to the quality of these PCBs, and so if you want a circuit immortalized forever, check out PCBWay.com with the link in the description. Now back to the conversation. Item number 6 is a little bit of a change of pace. It's not a tool per se, but it's a really cool microcontroller that I'm sure you know about. So the RP2040 Raspberry Pi's dual-core microcontroller, they're available kind of sparsely here. I'm just going to check Amazon really quick. RP2040 here in Canada. Do we have the full-size ones? Yeah, so I can get 2 for $18. One for $13 Canadian. So not exactly ideal. It was supposed to be really cheap. If I go check mouser.ca, for example, RP2040, and I'm talking about the the board, the SBC, basically. So the RP2040 Pico is $8. So kind of pricey. However, if you only need a couple of the pins, you can go on AliExpress and pick up RP2040 Zero. I think that's what it's called. Hang on, let me scroll up to the top here. Yeah, RP2040 Zero. So it's basically a Raspberry Pi Pico development board. So it's got the USB-C on it and everything. However, it is tiny. It is, actually the dimensions should be listed on the seller's thing. Oh, maybe not. Okay, what a horrible seller. That's okay. It's absolutely tiny. So it has a 0.1 inch pin headers, and it has 8 pins on either side. So that tells you how small it is. It's about 3 times the size of the USB connector itself. It has a built-in LED. I believe it's RGB, but it also has 29 GPIOs. So 20 are available versus edge pinout, and the other ones are available versus like on like solder pads. So you have to access it by soldering onto the board directly. And I mean, it has everything you would want, but it's absolutely tiny and it's cheap. It's $3 Canadian, so roughly $2 American, as opposed to the legit board, which is quite a bit more expensive. I believe they're $5 American and $8 Canadian. So if you need, a RP2040 to do projects, oh, here we go. It's 18 millimeters by 23 millimeters. Jesus. So it's about like, it's shorter than an inch on its longest dimension. So if you need an RP2040, but you don't want the full footprint version and you don't want the IC version, because don't forget the IC version is not much cheaper than the whole board. And I believe this one has a memory on it as well, because I do see there is a chip populated on the other side. However, the listing doesn't say it does. So I have a couple of these. I've already ordered them because they're much cheaper, again, like I was saying, than the full fat version. And I have been looking for an excuse to learn MicroPython. And so I believe this is what my foray into MicroPython is going to be. It's going to be the RP2040, but in the Zero form factor. So it's much smaller, and I can do just as powerful of projects and just have a much smaller footprint for much less money. I can literally order 3 of these for the price of 1 Pi Pico at Mouser, or I can actually order, more like 6 of them for the price of the Amazon ones. So yeah, hopefully you find that useful too. For item number 7, this is another item that I actually have in stock, and I am planning on doing a review, or at least a quick look video, or first look video, I should say. Is something I think we should all have, is the BT168 battery tester. It's a battery tester, but really we should call it a cell tester, because a battery is like a grouping of cells. So this is a single cell tester, those AA's, AAA's, those kinds of things. And essentially what it does is there's like a sliding foot, and a fixed contact. So the sliding foot has its own contact. And when you put a cell on, in between these two contacts, it pulls a very light load on the cell, and then it gives you a reading of the voltage. And if the voltage is above, I don't actually know what the threshold is, but typically if it's above like 1.5 volts or so, then the cell is still good. It looks like the replace threshold is below 1.15 volts. So yeah, it's a quick way. I think we all have a whole bunch of AA's and AAA's. I keep them around for my multimeters and stuff like that. And also, like, I have 9 volts for the smoke detectors and stuff like that. So the BT168 is something really useful to have around the house for electronics enthusiasts or not. And because a lot of us get summoned to help our friends and family with, with diagnosing stuff, it's a good thing to have in your kit to bring with you to make sure, the batteries in your mom's remote for her TV, they were just bad. They were from the dollar store 10 years ago. And even though she just opened the package, her remote control is not broken. It's, her TV remote's not broken. It's really just the batteries that are no good anymore, that type of thing. So the link in the description will have actually 3 different BT168 meters for you to look at. There's the regular BT168 with an analog gauge. So that looks actually pretty cool. It's got one of those, I think it's a balancing coil gauge, but it'll show you keep or replace. And then there's the BT168D, which is essentially the same thing, but it is digital. It has a bunch of 7-segment displays on LCD. And then there's the BT168 Pro. And as far as I understand, the only difference between the 168D with the digital display and the Pro is that the Pro can check single lithium cells. So if you're one of those types of people that have lithium ion cells that you've salvaged from power tools or old laptops or whatever, the Pro will give you a reading on that as well. But everything else, you just need the D. You don't need the Pro. Fun fact, I actually gathered a large Ziploc of cells that I'm not sure if they're good or bad. So basically part of the video will be testing all of the cells in that bag and determining which ones are good and which ones are not. I know there was a bunch of carbon zinc cells that I got from the dollar store that once they were done, I was planning on opening them up and taking the carbon rod out of them. They have like a carbon rod you can use as a welding electrode, essentially. And so the plan was to keep them around for that. But now I don't know which ones were around for that and which ones were around for just, keeping handy. So yeah, that's not great. And by the way, the base model, the tester with the analog gauge on it is just over $3 Canadian and just under $3 American. So again, really inexpensive for what you get. They also have like a different one, the BT189, which is fixed. It looks like someone took a bite out of it and then you just put the cell wherever it fits. I also have that one to test out, but I assume it's going to be the same thing. And it seems like a lot of these don't have a brand associated with them, but a lot of them have the brand ANEG associated with them. So it's really hard to say if they're ANEG or if they're not, or if they just print ANEG on them, or maybe ANEG have their own commissioned and then the sellers, they just sell whatever they have in stock. I have no idea, but yeah, it's going to be fun playing with that. And I'm going to be using the Unity multimeter, 5.5 digit multimeter they sent me in order to test how much current is being pulled. So we're going to see very precisely how much current this thing pulls. So it should be pretty interesting. For number 8 now is a very versatile device that I've actually made a YouTube video about, and I do believe that it is underutilized. You don't have to be an electronics enthusiast to use one of these, and that is a USB PD trigger. So it's a PCB with a USB-C connector on it that you can use to extract 5 volts, 9 volts, 12 volts, 15 volts, or 20 volts from a compatible charger. Now, I think as we go on, more and more devices are charged by USB-C, and so more and more people have a USB PD capable device that offers higher voltages. Well, for us in the electronic space, I mean, it's simple. We can turn, one of those tiny little plug-in GAN chargers into basically a benchtop power supply without current regulation, obviously. However, there are circuits like you can make the LM317, I believe, into a constant current circuit, and then you can actually limit the current like that. So the uses are pretty much limitless after that point. Other things that you can use it for that I can think off the top of my head, you can use it to charge drill batteries. You won't get full voltage at 20 volts, but still, it's better than a flat battery. You can use it to power a TS100, TS80, TS101 soldering iron, a little battery-powered soldering iron. Well, you can plug it directly into the wall, or you can use a USB PD power bank in order to power it with that little device. You can even use it to eliminate plug packs, right? If you have a whole bunch of plug packs for certain devices, like for example, I have an electronic load with a 12-volt plug pack. Well, if I always use it at my workbench, I can just eliminate the plug pack completely and just use a single GAN charger at my workbench. So as you can see, you can use these things for pretty much anything you can think of. I mean, 9 volts, 12 volts, 15, and 20 are fairly common voltages. Like 20 volts would be like laptop charging. 15 volts, I'm not quite sure. I guess some things are like 14 volts. Things that are compatible with cars typically will take 12 to 15 volts-ish. 9 volts, you see a lot of routers and stuff like that are at 9 volts. And then there's the 5 volts directly from the USB that you can use for, Arduino or whatever. So you got a huge range of voltages you can use, and all out of this same tiny little GAN charger. So I think that's really nifty. There are tons of these PD boards available. They're all slightly different, but the ones I'm linking in the description are the ones I like the most because they have really thick tracks on the bottom, and they seem to work really well. They don't take very much quiescent current to use, and there's all sorts of pads on it. I think there's 3 sets of pads you can use for your projects. It's also fairly small. There are some slightly more compact ones that you can fit like kind of inside of devices if you'd like, but this one is a good balance of, current handling and, size. As for number 9, well, I picked something that is quite fun. So who doesn't like LEDs? LEDs are awesome. We should all like them, especially as electronics enthusiasts. And, there's all sorts of LEDs to like. There's the SMD LEDs, the tiny ones. There's the Cobb LEDs that make for bigger features. But what I really like is the classic shape of the LED. So there's the classic 3mm LED and the classic 5mm LED. And those are, they're like an iconic shape, right? They have that dome on top, and they have the ridge on the bottom and the little flat to indicate positive, or was it negative? I think it's positive. Either way, those are all well and good. But did you know that you can get a 10mm LED? Oh yes, you can get an LED literally twice the size of the traditional 5mm LED. So when you go look at the link in the description, you're going to see that it looks pretty normal in the picture. It looks like a regular LED. It truly does. However, the leads seem really small. And it's not because they're low quality. It's because the LED is literally 10 millimeters of diameter. The ones I'm linking as well are the ones I prefer, where the colored LEDs have a little bit of a diffused, a little bit opaque diffusion. It's not just the transparent white resin, and then the LED is colored. It's the whole body is diffused, and then the LED is also emitting that color. So the one I'm linking is for $2.45 Canadian, just under $2 American. You can get red, yellow, blue, green, or white, or for $4 Canadian and $3 just under $3 American, you get the 50 pieces multicolor kit. So 10 of each. And that's the one that's going in my cart as we speak, because I think those things make me smile. I've already bought some 10 millimeter LEDs, and they were a lot of fun to play with. But I got the RGB ones, the ones with I think it's 1 power and 3 separate grounds for the RG and B. And I love those things. They're giant. They look phenomenal. They put out really nice light. And I'm excited to have the multicolor kit arrive here in no time. By the way, AliExpress really stepped up their shipping game. The prices have gone up a little bit, but if you get the AliExpress Choice stuff, it's shipped to your house a lot quicker. It's like under 2 weeks. Pretty nice. And finally, for number 10, if I had a producer recording with me live, then we could have some sound bites a la H3H3, my favorite podcast, but we do not. So number 10 is a USB cable tester. Now, I didn't pick the cheapest cable tester on AliExpress, and the reason why I didn't pick the cheapest one is because this one that I've picked is not only not bad of a price, it's $5.50 Canadian, which is $4 American. So it's reasonably priced, but also it's from a really good brand. So Mechanic, if you ever see anything by the brand Mechanic, it's probably one of the better examples of that tool for the price range. They make some really nice stuff. So essentially, I don't know if you're like me, but I've got a ton of USB cables that came with all sorts of different devices. And when it's time to program, let's say, an Arduino or something, I go into my big box of USB cables, grab one, plug it into the Arduino, plug it into the computer, and sometimes it doesn't work. And so I don't know why. Well, I guess I do know why, because they're cheaper, but sometimes a USB cable is just a charge cable. And in order for you to be able to mark it and to eliminate variables, because you never know, sometimes it could be your computer ports or whatever, it's good to have a USB tester. So this is a simple PCB. It takes power in from a USB-C cable and a charger or whatever. And then it has a Type-C and a Type-A receptacle on the same side. On the other side of the board, there is a Lightning, a Type-C, and a USB micro connector. And essentially, you just put your cable between the Type-A and whatever the corresponding side is, or between the Type-C and whatever the corresponding side is. And then there's LEDs on the board that indicate whether or not your cable is properly connected. I don't believe they'll tell you if D plus is connected to D plus and D minus is connected to D minus. Those could be backwards for all I know. But it will tell you if they are actually connected. So yeah, it checks CC, D plus, D minus, VCC, and ground. So very quick way to figure out if your cable is fine. I believe the CC is just for the USB-C, C to C. I do believe that's what it is. That's the one that enables USB PD and stuff like that. So yeah, it'll check Apple cables, which are Lightning. It'll check your micro. The only thing it doesn't do the printer cables, and it won't do like the old the square USB mini. But I think that's fine. I'm trying to eliminate those out of my boxes and stuff. So hopefully I won't need that ever. But yeah, anyways, this one is actually going into the cart, and it will be arriving shortly to my studio. So we're going to take a look at it either way if you're unsure about that. But typically, stuff by the Mechanic brand is pretty good stuff. I also want to use this opportunity to shout out another maker. I usually have them on more often than I did for the last little while, but I've been really busy, so doing a lot of solo episodes. He built, and I'll put a link in the description, the Ultimate Cable Tester, where it's the same kind of principle as this USB tester. You just send current down a single, down the wires, and they light up LEDs if it works. Although his does it in sequence, so it'll light, like let's say it had an adapter for USB, it would light D+ on one side and see what lights up on the other side as well. So if your D+ and D- were reversed, you would be able to see that. He created it because he had D9 cables that some of them are like crossed over, or serial cables or something. Anyways, some of them are crossed over, and he used that to determine if it's crossed over or not. But apparently the concept is scalable. All you need to do is build different adapters, and the cable tester will work just the same. Even I added I had a request essentially to be able to step through one at a time instead of having it just scroll through by itself, and he added that functionality. So pretty awesome if you ask me. So check out that video if you haven't seen it yet. So now all 10 items are gone through. What do you think of my list? I really want to know. Is there stuff that I missed? Is there stuff you agree with? Is there stuff it is the first time you have heard of? Or did I give you inspiration to go buy it? You let me know. I really want your feedback on this one in the comments below. And if there is a lot of buy-in to this, if you guys really did enjoy it, then maybe in a future episode, I will go through 10 more items. Also, actually, I would like to know, would this make a really good video concept? 10 things that I think you should get from Amazon, I should say, AliExpress. Should I just order 10 things and show off 10 things? Is 10 too much? Let me know. I also wanted to share today with you a story of how electronics can save you a lot of money. So my wife and I have a gas clothes dryer, and it just gave up the ghost very recently. And I believe that my knowledge of basic electrical troubleshooting from my automotive skills, and same kind of stuff as electronics knowledge, helped me save a ton of money on a replacement gas dryer. A gas dryer here is something like $1,200 or something like that Canadian. Plus, you're not allowed to install it yourself. You have to have a professional connect it to the gas main. If you can actually do it yourself if you have the hookups already. However, if something goes wrong, your insurance doesn't cover you. It's a total loss. So you basically need a professional to come install it. So that's a couple $100 as well. Anyways, the gas dryer stopped working, and then I started looking into it. This thing has been installed here in this house since 1985. Now, we don't have the house for that long, so the previous owner definitely had it. But the symptoms were no heat. So there's like nothing. If it was an electric dryer, then it'd be a lot simpler because they have a heating element. But the gas dryer has like solenoid valves that actuate to allow the flame to start. But there's a whole bunch of sort of safety interlocks that need to be done before the gas gets released, because or else you'll just be flooding someone's basement with natural gas, which is not great, to say the least. So I started looking through those interlocks. So the door interlock definitely worked. The toggle switch that switches between heat and just regular air, that remained to be seen. The motor definitely worked. However, the gas won't turn on if the motor isn't spinning. And how does the machine know it's spinning? Well, it's got a centrifugal or centripetal switch. So when the motor spins, a little collar and with little counterweights, the counterweights move, the collar gets pulled in, and then a switch gets actuated. So I decided to go test that. So this is 120 volts AC. I'm not as comfortable at 120 volts AC as I am at 12 volts DC, but regardless, I have the tools. So I figured I would just go for it. So I removed the switch and I took it apart, and all of the contacts were like arced over. There was like a whole bunch of carbon tracking everywhere. And so I was like, oh, damn, that's a problem. And so if that switch doesn't make proper contact, then the controller on this dryer doesn't know that the drum is spinning. So that means if it turns on the gas, if it turns on the flame, you might just be hitting one piece of clothing at all times with the heat, and that's dangerous. It could catch on fire, right? So I cleaned that all out. I put it all back together. And one of the connections didn't want to come off. And when it came off, it actually broke the wire. So I was like, oh, that's my problem. The wire was probably brittle. So I crimped a new end to that wire. And well, actually what I did was I soldered a new piece of wire, a new piece of AC rated, mains rated wire to the terminal. And then I crimped that piece of wire to the old piece of wire. I put a bunch of heat shrink over it, so it should be perfectly fine. And lo and behold, still doesn't work. Okay. So now there's a gas valve with two solenoids. The solenoids are testable, except that there's nowhere in the chain that they are testable. Like they're crimped together. There's crimp connections that are non-accessible. You have to pierce the insulation in order to test these things. So I figured the gas solenoids will be my last thing I test, because I don't want to pierce the insulation inside of my dryer just in case. So then I go down the line a little bit. There is, I don't know, to me, it just looks like a ceramic spiral. And I pull that out and it's broken. There's a ceramic spiral that's broken. I'm like, I don't know what the hell this ceramic spiral is. It could be a sensor of some sort. I don't know, but it's in sort of like the line of the gas flow. And so I look it up. It's a igniter. So I guess it's a resistive load to ignite the gas. Well, it's broken. So since it's broken, I figure, okay, I'll order one. I'll order a cheap one from Amazon. Because it'll be in tomorrow, the day after I order it. And then I will put it in. And if it still doesn't work, then I'll continue my troubleshooting, because this one's broken. So that's not good. So I order it. Let's say, I think it was a Friday. So it was a Friday evening by the time I got to look at it and then diagnose it. And then I looked on Amazon and it said if I order it, I'll get it the next day. So I looked around other places, couldn't really find it. So I went and I ordered it, and it said it was going to be in 2 days now. I missed the deadline. I didn't realize. So now I have a part coming in on Sunday. So it's Friday night, and I'm not going to know if I need to buy a dryer or not until at least Sunday. Sunday rolls around. The delivery was delayed until Tuesday. But I go back on Amazon and the same part I ordered, is available for Monday. So mine is coming on Tuesday, but if I order a new one, it should be there on Monday. Fine, I order a second one. Monday, the day of this recording here, happens, and they both arrive at the same time. And I'll tell you, I'm really happy I ordered two, because they just showed up in a bubble mailer, and then they're in a cardboard box, and that's it. So just this like really fragile ceramic spiral, like double helix essentially, is like just shipped in a mailer that got thrown onto my front step. Well, anyways, I put the igniter in, I give it a test. Oh, actually, between times, I actually connected my Fluke multimeter to the two leads that go to the igniter. And when the drum is spinning, it gets 120 volts. So I'm pretty confident this is the problem. So, and this is the part where I need you guys to listen up. Maybe you can explain what happened. But I put the igniter in, and then I start the dryer. Still nothing. Okay. The igniter is not held in. It's only held in by like two springs, let's just say. A left spring and a right spring. And those two springs are touching one side of the helix and the other side of the helix. So that's what gives it the power. So I clip my multimeter leads onto those two springs, and I spin the drum, and lo and behold, there's 120 volts between those two contacts. But yet, the igniter is not lighting. It's not like glowing orange. I was like, what the hell is going on? So then I continue looking. There's another sensor, just in front of the igniter, essentially, and there's like a little window just in front of the igniter. So I assume that is going to be a flame sensor. So I look up on how to test it, and how you test it is you just unplug it, and then you check the continuity, and if continuity is there, then that means it's good. I guess when there's a flame, then it starts being resistive, so it turns off your igniter, essentially. I feel like that's how it works. So I check it, and it has continuity. Okay, I remove the igniter and put the igniter back in. Maybe the contacts weren't good. Still doesn't work. What the heck? Then there's a guy showing how to check continuity, how to check it on YouTube. And he's just like, yeah, you check continuity. And then he says, maybe if you want, you can clean the window, but that's about it. So I was like, okay. Grabbed a paintbrush. Actually, my wife went to get it for me. She's super helpful. And then I just reached in and brushed the window. I didn't see anything on it, but it's kind of an odd angle. So I brushed the window, and I'm like, I don't think this is going to do anything, but whatever. I'm going to try it anyways. Turn on the drum, and lo and behold, it works. So yeah, basic troubleshooting skills. And now for a $50 part, I get to save my dryer from going to the dump. Eventually, I'll have to replace it, but not today, which is really good, because these things are expensive and I've got laundry to do. So yeah, just something. Keep in mind that your skills are transferable no matter what you think of them. So as we're winding down here, though, I do have one more thing I want to talk about, because I've been live streaming a lot lately, and you guys should check that out if you want to see what I've been up to. But one thing I've been taking a look at is the Unity 5.5-digit multimeter that I mentioned a little bit earlier in this episode. First and foremost, the measuring portion of it is awesome. I do love the fact that you have so many digits available, or at least I do. I'm not used to this kind of quality, right? However, using it more for the first look video, the UI is a bit weird. The UI is strange. I guess you'll see it in the video, because the video is filmed now. It just needs to be edited. However, it's weird. So there's one button for AC volts and one different button for DC volts, which sounds fine. But then if you want to go to DC current, you have to go shift DC volts. If you want to go into AC current, you have to go shift AC volts. That's a really weird strategy. I would much rather I click DC volts, and if I want AC, I just click it again. I get AC volts, and then I get DC current if I click current, and then I click it again, and it gets AC current. I mean, I thought that would have been a little bit better. So, but that's a little strange, right? Some more things came up though, like the continuity buzzer. It's not latching, and it's not particularly fast. That could be due to the leads though. I'm not 100% sure. I do have some high quality leads, which I'm going to do a shootout of a whole bunch of leads, pretty soon. So look forward to that. But once I have the leads out, then I will see if the leads make any difference. But then the really weird stuff started. So there is a thermocouple setting, so you can take temperature readings, which is pretty normal for a multimeter. Except this one comes with a K-type thermocouple, and it doesn't tell you where, in which holes, in which ports. There's, I think there's 5 ports on the front, which ports to install it. Okay, so I look in the manual and I figure out which ports. No problem. Then you go to temperature, and the default is a different probe than what is supplied. So that's fine. You go into the little menu that's just at the bottom of the screen. Then you press, it's like F1, and then you go select the probe, and then you have to select thermocouple. Then you have to select the type, which is, it defaults to J type, but this is a K type. So you put in the K type, and then it works perfectly. But then you power it off with the soft power button, and you power it back on. So it's still plugged into the wall. It's still, the main switch was on, but the soft power switch was cycled, and it forgot it. It defaulted back to the probe that it didn't come with. So that's very weird, right? And then the weirdest thing. So in the manual, it says it does diode test up to 4 volts. However, I could only get it to read. So I started with a Schottky diode, no problem. Regular diode, no problem. So 0.3 and 0.6 volts. Then a red LED, no problem. A green LED at 1.8 volts, no problem. But then a blue LED and a white LED didn't, like, it lit, but it showed open. Showed, open voltage or whatever. It couldn't, there was no voltage drop. And that's weird because the manual says anything above 4 volts will show open. But the LED is lit. But then I pull out the Kaiweets multimeter, HT118A, and I plug it into that, and the white LED is only like 2.8 or something volts, something like that. It's going to be in the video. So the Unity is actually not meeting spec for that. So I'm going to reach out, long story short, I'm going to reach out to Unity and ask them what's going on with that, because that seems like an oversight, really. And what do I mean? I'm going to reach out to them. Well, I've sent them the power supply video last week, and they haven't replied yet. So I'm not sure if I'm just on the do not call list anymore or something, but because I have delayed the videos because of burnout. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I still have a contact at Unity, and time will tell. So yeah. And I guess that's it for today's episode. Hopefully you liked it. Hopefully you liked the format where I went and I did something that I found interesting, and hopefully you found interesting as well. if you want to take a look at all the stuff we talked about today, check out the links in the description. It does help out the channel. They are affiliate links. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy your time, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for listening, guys.